So the story I'm going to review today is from the biography of Peter Steele and his wife, written by a woman named Kate Pickard. And it's about a man named Aaron who got in trouble for drinking a little too much one evening. He was instructed to drive the carriage for the master's wife, and Aaron had been drinking, and so he was unable to drive the carriage and he got in trouble for it. And this is Aaron's story. The next morning, he sent for the overseer and directed him to take Aaron into the carriage house and give him a slight whipping. Now do it quietly, said he, and be sure not to cut his skin. I don't want to hear any disturbance. Do it as gently as possible. The overseer respectfully assented and went out. Instantly, one of the maids who had chanced to hear this conversation stole out of the house and saw Aaron. Look here, said she. You know what Massa say? Know what Massa say? No, how I know what he say when he never spoke to me this much? Well, he say to the overseer, Aaron must be punished for when he took a dram when Miss Clay wanted him to drive for her. You may take him to the carriage house and whip him, but don't cut him up. Don't cut him up. Massa say so? Well, reckon this child be ready. Overseer mighty good. He talks so clever, like he thinks I white sometimes. But the devil in his eye. He don't want it this long time get a cut at me. I knows what overseers means when they gets too good. Yeah, he thinks now he gonna give this child all he owes him. The girl's astonished eyes follows Aaron as he leaped over the fence and ran toward a small grocery that stood a short distance on the road to town. Here he had no difficulty in procuring a dram, and having thus fitted himself for the anticipated contest, he walked home and resumed his work. Soon the overseer called from the carriage house door. Aaron, sir, come here. In a moment, the slave stood before him. Aaron, Mr. Clay says you must come into the carriage house and be whipped. Did Master say so? Yes. He says your habit of drinking annoys your mistress so often that you must be punished for it. He says he has tried to persuade you to leave it off, but it does no good. I don't like to whip you, Aaron, but it is Mr. Clay's orders. Well, if Master says so, then it must be so. And he walked quietly into the carriage house, followed by his kind friend, the overseer, who fastened the door on the inside. Now, mister, said Aaron, you may whip me if Master says so, but you needn't tie me. I won't be tied. Very well, replied the overseer, throwing down the rope which he had in his hand. You needn't be tied if you will stand still, but you must take off your coat. Yes, sir, but if I take off my coat to be whipped, you ought to take yourn off first to whip me. The man perceived that he had been drinking and knew he must indulge his whim if he would obey Mr. Clay's orders to keep quiet, so he pulled off his coat, and Aaron quickly laid his beside on the floor. Then followed the vest, the slave insisting that Mr. should remove his own. Now your shirt, Aaron, said he. Yes, sir, but you must take off your own first. This was going further for quiet's sake than the overseer had intended, but he hesitated only a moment. It would be best, he thought, to humor him. He had, in truth, long wished for a chance to humble Aaron, and now the time had come. But behold, no sooner had he lifted his arms to pull his shirt over his head than Aaron seized the garment and, twisting it around his neck, held him fast. Then, catching the whip, he applied it vigorously to the overseer's naked back, raising the skin at every stroke. His victim screamed and threatened him with vengeance, but all in vain. The blows fell hard and fast. Mr. Clay heard the outcry and grew very angry. I told him, said he, to make no noise, and to be sure not to whip the poor fellow severely. He must be cut him to pieces. He hastened to the carriage house. The door was fastened within, but he could hear the whizzing of the whip as it descended on the sufferer's back. Open the door, he cried. Didn't I tell you not to whip him hard? Open the door, I say. Oh, Mr. Clay, it's Aaron whipping me. I haven't given him a blow. "Aaron," cried the master, "open the door." Instantly the slave obeyed. With his right hand, in which he still had the whip that he had used to such good purpose, he opened the door, while his left he retained his vice-like grasp of the twisted shirt. His face was all complacent, yet his eyes twinkled with mirth, and a roguish smile lurked at the corner of his mouth. Mr. Clay stood for a few moments, mute with astonishment, but when he finally comprehended the strange scene, he burst into a hearty laugh. And although the overseer, as soon as he was released, proceeded to explain to him the manner in which he had been caught, and insisted that he should now be allowed to whip Aaron, his arguments were lost. The master quietly expressed his opinion that there had been whipping enough. It was not necessary to go any further.